All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, it's been somewhat of an up and down start to this IndyCar season for Team Penske, but they were at their strongest today at Road America. Team Penske finished first, second, and third as Will Power, Joseph Newgarden, and Scott McLaughlin all went one, two, and three, respectively. Now, the way that the race started, it appeared that it was going to be a repeat of Detroit last Sunday, where the contest was full of cautions. The accident in the early stages of this race involving some of the cars at the head of the pack and Colton Herta, Marcus Armstrong, and Linus Lundqvist, which made for a long day for them as Herta still finished sixth overall, but he was in chase mode all afternoon long as he was trying to make up spots. Once the race got into a rhythm, though, it was all about Team Penske. We saw McLaughlin lead early, and then the cat and mouse race, if you will, between he and Newgarden. Power was the last Penske driver to pit late. And that was very interesting because it came down to the fact of where were the trips to pit lane going to happen? Was it going to be all Penske drivers going in at the same time? That was not the case. McLaughlin went first. Newgarden was able to jump him coming out of or Newgarden was able to hold him off rather as he came out of the pits. And then Newgarden pitted and he was able to fend off McLaughlin. And then surprisingly, okay, when Power decided to go to the pits late, okay, when he came out of the pits, he was able to hold off Newgarden. And you thought, well, you know, his tires weren't, going, they weren't up to track temperature at that time. No, Will Power raced strong, held off Joseph Newgarden, and actually won today's race going away. Nonetheless, even with Power's win, Newgarden and McLaughlin were both very strong today. And on any other day, they would have been good enough to win, but it was just Will Power was a little bit better at the end. Power did not lead a lap in this race until the last nine, and when it was all said and done, he got himself to the winner's circle for the first time in more than 2 years. Power's last win came back in 2022 at the final race at Belle Isle, and you think about it, 2023 was the first time in Power's IndyCar career that he had never got to the winner's circle at least once during the season. Came out today, talked about, an illness with his wife last year that, really took away from his focus. And it just gives you an idea of, things that are more important in life. And, credit to Will Power and his family. His wife has rebounded. And, he appears to be a guy that's racing clearer here in 2024. It's one of those where for Power, he was able to put a tough 2 weeks behind him as well. You think about it not being able to finish at Indy after he crashed out late, and then all of the issues that he had last week in Detroit with the penalties, you name it, and he still, with all of that said, managed to finish top 10 last week at Detroit, and now coming back strong for his first victory of the season today. And of course, in the process, Will Power is now leading in the points in the IndyCar championship race, and I'll touch on that in a moment. But nonetheless, you think about this race, it was dominated by Team Penske. Alex Palou finished fourth today. And part of me wants to say that Palou was laying in the weeds, but at the same time, it really wasn't because it was Penske and everybody else today at Road America. Overall, it was a tough day for Chip Ganassi. We saw Scott Dixon, who won last week in Detroit, who came in today as the points leader, struggle, and he finished 21st. And of course, that tire issue early on really, set the tone for a tough day for him. And it was a tire issue when the drivers decided to go to the alternates. or had to go to the alternates. It was one of those where basically the field learned from Dixon's issue where, you really couldn't floor it at first on those alternates. And of course, Scott Dixon was racing in the top 10 at the time, lost a lot of track position and never recovered from that today. Like I said, it was a tough day for Chip Ganassi. We saw what happened with Linus Lundqvist and Marcus Armstrong early on in that race. Of course, for Marcus Armstrong, he didn't finish on the lead lap at all. He took 26th in today's race. Like I said, Linus Lundqvist he had a situation where he took 12th after being a pole sitter. So that definitely had to be a frustrating day for Chip Ganassi as well as Scott Dixon's place. And Alex Palou was able to save face. But I'll tell you like this though, unlike last year where we saw, and this is no disrespect to Alex Palou because he simply dominated last year en route to winning his championship. This time around, it's going to be a lot different. Okay, we've had multiple drivers, okay, lead in the points standings throughout this season, and I think it's going to be continuing to change. You got Power in the catbird seat right now, but you've got Alex Palou right behind him, just 5 points back. Scott Dixon is in third place now, 11 points back. You've got Pato Award, who's close. You've got Scott McLaughlin and Kyle Kirkwood tied for fifth. You've got Colton Herta at seventh. You've got Newgarden at eighth. And after all of the controversy to begin this season, he's still right there in the top 10. We've seen Newgarden race strong in recent weeks. Of course, he got the Indy 500 win a couple of weeks ago and now a second place finish at Road America today. You got Alexander Rossi, racing for McLaren right there at eighth, and then Felix Rosenquist, in 10th. So I think there's a lot um, that could still be sifted through, and we still got 10 more races to go on this IndyCar season. Nonetheless, a strong day for Penske, as they get a couple of weeks off before they head to Monterey in a couple of weeks, but nonetheless, 3 straight weeks of IndyCar racing, three straight solid weeks of IndyCar racing, and just total and utter domination by Team Penske. Coming into this season, I said it was probably going to be either Team Penske or Chip Ganassi that went out there and won this championship. And you look at things right now, you got a Penske driver at the top of the points, followed by two Chip Ganassi drivers. And like I said, things can still change between now and the end of the season. You've got a lot of hungry drivers out there that are looking for wins. But nonetheless, getting back to today, it was all about Team Penske. They dominated and they took first, second, and third, and it wasn't even close. Okay. And that just shows you uh, once this team gets rolling, they are at the top of their game. And we saw that again from Team Penske today. First, second, and third, total domination. And let's see how things look 2 weeks from now when IndyCar goes to Monterey. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank all of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you haven't already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.